The annual shareholders' meeting of Bennett Industries was held in the grand ballroom of the Riverside Hotel, the same venue where my parents had celebrated their 30th wedding anniversary. 200 folding chairs faced a stage with a podium and projection screen. Crystal chandeliers hung overhead. Waiters circulated with coffee and pastries. I sat in the back row, my laptop open, taking notes like I'd done at every shareholders' meeting for the past 8 years. My father, Robert Bennett, stood at the podium in his custom navy suit, his silver hair perfectly styled, commanding the room with the presence of a man who'd built a manufacturing empire from scratch. Bennett Industries produced industrial components for automotive, aerospace, and construction companies. 42 facilities across 11 states. Annual revenue of $1.2 billion. As you can see from the quarterly report, my father was saying, we've exceeded projections in every sector. Our aerospace division alone has grown 23% year-over-year. Shareholders nodded approvingly. Most were silent partners, investment groups, and family friends who'd bought in during various funding rounds over the company's 35-year history. My mother, Patricia Bennett, sat in the front row next to my older brother David, who served as vice president of operations. My sister Lauren, the chief marketing officer, sat beside them. The Bennett family business trinity, as the industry magazines called them. I was never part of that trinity. Before we move to the financial deep dive, my father continued, I want to address something. Some of you may have noticed my youngest daughter, Emily, sitting in the back row taking notes. Every head in the room turned to look at me. I kept my expression neutral. Emily has attended these meetings for years, my father said with an indulgent smile. She takes her little notes, asks her little questions. Cute really. Shows interest in the family business, even if she doesn't quite understand the complexity of what we do here. Polite laughter rippled through the crowd. Emily has a savings account, my mother added from her seat, loud enough for everyone to hear. She's very proud of it. She checks it regularly, tracks her interest. It's adorable. More laughter. David grinned. Lauren looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Real business is too complex for everyone, my father continued, his tone patronizing but not unkind. Emily has her interests, her charity work, her little investment club meetings, and that's wonderful. But Bennett Industries requires decades of experience, intimate knowledge of manufacturing, understanding of global supply chains. He trailed off meaningfully. The implication was clear. I was a child playing at business while the adults did real work. Now, my father said, pulling up a new slide, let's talk about our expansion plans. We're looking at acquiring precision parts manufacturing in Ohio, which would give us vertical integration in our automotive supply chain. I typed quietly on my laptop, my face revealing nothing. What my father didn't know, what nobody in this room except 3 people knew, was that the little savings account my mother mocked had started with $5 million from my grandfather's inheritance when I was 21. What my family didn't know was that I'd turned that $5 million into $680 million over 12 years through careful, strategic investments in private equity, real estate, and corporate debt. What absolutely nobody in this room knew, except the 3 board members who were legally required to know, was that over the past 8 years, through a complex network of holding companies, shell corporations, and strategic debt purchases, I had quietly acquired controlling interest in Bennett Industries. I owned 52% of the company my father thought he controlled. My phone buzzed silently. A text from James Morrison, the board chairman, sitting in the second row. After the financial presentation. Are you ready? I texted back. Yes. The meeting continued. David presented the operations report. Efficiency improvements, facility upgrades, workforce optimization. Lauren showed marketing metrics, brand awareness, customer satisfaction scores, new client acquisitions. Everything looked good. The company was healthy, profitable, well-managed. Except for one problem that I'd identified 3 years ago. My father was preparing to sell. He hadn't announced it publicly, but I'd seen the preliminary discussions. Private equity firms circling. Valuation assessments. My father wanted to cash out, take his billion-dollar payday and retire. He'd turn 65 next year. The sale would destroy the company. The PE firms would strip it for parts, sell off divisions, fire thousands of employees, and extract maximum value before discarding the husk. I'd been building my position specifically to prevent that. Now for our financial overview, my father said, gesturing to the CFO Richard Zhang. Richard will walk us through the numbers and then we'll open for questions. Richard approached the podium with his tablet and began his presentation. Revenue, margins, cash flow, debt ratios. Everything looked strong because I'd made sure it stayed strong. Over the past 8 years, every time Bennett Industries needed capital, I'd provided it through anonymous debt purchases and credit facilities. They thought they were getting favorable terms from generous banks. They didn't know I was the bank. When Richard finished, my father returned to the podium. Questions. Several hands went up. The usual inquiries. Dividend schedules, expansion timelines, competitive positioning. Then my hand went up. My father saw me and smiled. Yes, Emily? Do you have a question? Yes, I said, standing up. I'm wondering about the debt restructuring that happened in 2021. Bennett Industries refinanced $280 million in bonds at a very favorable rate. Can you explain who provided that financing? My father's smile widened. That's a rather technical question, sweetheart. The short answer is we worked with several institutional investors who recognized the value of our company. Richard can send you the details if you're curious, though I'm not sure you'll understand the bond documents. I understand bond documents, I said calmly. I'm asking specifically about the identity of the investors. Richard cleared his throat. The bond purchase was facilitated through a private placement with several investment groups. The lead investor was Meridian Capital Holdings. And who controls Meridian Capital Holdings? I asked. That information is confidential, Richard said, glancing at my father. I see, I said. And the $180 million credit facility established in 2022 through Sterling Financial Group. Who controls that entity? My father's smile was becoming strained. Emily, these are rather aggressive questions. If you have concerns about the company's financial structure, we can discuss it privately. I don't have concerns, I said. I'm simply trying to understand the ownership structure of Bennett Industries. The ownership structure is clear, my father said firmly. The Bennett family holds 31% of shares. Various institutional investors hold the remainder. It's all documented in our filings. And private debt? I asked. The bonds, credit facilities, and other obligations that give creditors significant influence over company decisions? The room had gone quiet. Other shareholders were looking at me with confusion and irritation. Who was this young woman challenging Robert Bennett? My father's jaw tightened. Emily, I think that's enough. These meetings are for serious business discussions, not for you to show off whatever you learned in your investment club. I'm a shareholder, I said. I have the right to ask questions. You own 40 shares, David said, turning around in his seat. 40 shares that Dad gave you as a birthday present when you turned 25. That's 0.002% of the company. You're not exactly a major stakeholder. Those 40 shares give me the right to attend this meeting and ask questions, I replied. My mother stood up. Emily, you're embarrassing yourself. This isn't your little savings account. This is a billion-dollar company with real stakeholders who don't appreciate having their time wasted. Then let's not waste time, I said. I moved to add an item to today's agenda. I'd like to discuss the possibility of a sale or acquisition of Bennett Industries. The room erupted. Shareholders turned to each other, murmuring. My father's face went red. That's not on the agenda, he said sharply. I'm making a motion as a shareholder, I said. According to the corporate bylaws, any shareholder can propose agenda items if seconded by another shareholder. I second the motion, a voice said from the second row. James Morrison stood up. The board chairman, a man my father had worked with for 20 years. My father stared at him. James, what are you doing? Following proper procedure, James said calmly. The motion has been seconded. We should discuss it. This is ridiculous, David said. Emily doesn't know anything about M&A discussions. Actually, James said, I think Emily knows quite a bit. Emily, would you like to explain your concerns? Every eye in the room turned to me. I could see my father's confusion turning to anger. My mother looked mortified. Lauren had her phone out, probably texting someone about what was happening. I walked down the aisle toward the stage, my laptop under my arm. Over the past 6 months, I said, Bennett Industries has been in preliminary discussions with 3 private equity firms about a potential sale. The discussions have been confidential, but they're happening. My father's eyes widened. How do you know about that? Because I pay attention, I said. And because a sale would be catastrophic for this company. PE firms don't buy manufacturing companies to preserve them. They buy them to strip them. That's a gross oversimplification, my father said. Is it? Let's look at the pattern. A PE firm buys a manufacturing company, loads it with debt, sells off the profitable divisions, consolidates facilities, fires middle management, and extracts maximum value over 5 years before selling the remains to another buyer. Meanwhile, thousands of employees lose their jobs, communities lose their economic anchors, and the company's legacy is destroyed. You're being dramatic, David said. Am I? Let me read you something. I opened my laptop. This is from an email sent by Blackstone Partners to Dad's personal email 3 weeks ago. We see significant value extraction opportunities through facility consolidation and workforce optimization. Our models show 40% cost reduction through strategic restructuring. The room went silent. How the hell did you get my emails? My father demanded. I didn't, I said. But Blackstone Partners CC'd several people on that email, including some who thought the company's employees deserved to know what was being planned. That was a lie. I'd actually gotten the email through a contact at one of the law firms involved in the discussions. But the effect was the same. You had no right, my father started. Shareholders have every right to know when the company is being sold, I interrupted. Especially when that sale will destroy the company. Nobody's destroying anything, my father said. I've spent 35 years building Bennett Industries. I'm exploring options for succession planning. I'm 64 years old, Emily. I won't run this company forever. Then let David run it, I said. Or Lauren. Or hire a professional CEO. Don't sell to vultures who will tear apart everything you built. You don't understand how this works, my mother said from her seat. Your father deserves to retire. To enjoy the fruits of his labor. The sale would give us financial security. You have financial security, I said. You have a profitable company that generates tens of millions in annual profits. Why do you need $1 billion buyout? Because I earned it, my father said, his voice hard. I built this from nothing. I took the risks. I made the sacrifices. And I'll be damned if my daughter, who's never worked a real day in this company, is going to lecture me about business decisions. She's right to ask questions, James Morrison said, standing up again. In fact, I think we need to have a broader discussion about the company's future. Which is why I've asked several people to join us today. The ballroom's side door opened. 3 people walked in. Margaret Chin, the company's general counsel, Thomas Westbrook, an investment banker from Goldman Sachs, and Catherine Rodriguez, a senior partner from the accounting firm that handled Bennett Industries audits. What is this? My father demanded. This, James said, is a special session of the board of directors, convened under emergency provisions of the corporate bylaws. We're here to discuss a significant change in the company's ownership structure. What change? David asked, standing up now too. Dad owns 31% of the company. The family controls the board. What are you talking about? James looked at me. Emily, would you like to explain? Or should I? Everyone was staring at me now. My father's face had gone from red to pale. My mother looked confused. Lauren had put down her phone. I'll explain, I said. I connected my laptop to the projection system. A spreadsheet appeared on the screen behind me. This is Bennett Industries' complete ownership structure, I said. As you can see, the Bennett family holds 31% of equity shares. Various institutional investors hold another 39%. That's the public structure that everyone knows about. I clicked to the next slide. But Bennett Industries also has $460 million in outstanding debt. Corporate bonds, credit facilities, and private loans. These debt obligations give the creditors significant control over company decisions. In many cases, more control than equity shareholders. Another slide. The largest creditor is Meridian Capital Holdings, which holds $280 million in bonds. The second largest is Sterling Financial Group, which provides a $180 million credit facility. Together, these two entities control 75% of Bennett Industries' debt. I paused and looked at my father. And both entities are wholly owned subsidiaries of Thornton Investment Group. Silence. Complete absolute silence. Who the hell is Thornton Investment Group? David finally asked. I clicked to the next slide. It showed my face next to the corporate logo. I said. Thornton is my mother's maiden name. I established Thornton Investment Group 9 years ago. Over the past 8 years, I've systematically acquired debt positions in Bennett Industries. My father was staring at the screen like it showed his own death certificate. You're saying? He started then stopped. I'm saying that I hold $460 million in Bennett Industries debt, I said. Which, combined with my equity position and convertible instruments, gives me effective control of 52% of the company. That's impossible, my mother whispered. It's not only possible, it's documented, Margaret Chin said, standing up. I've reviewed all the paperwork. Emily's ownership structure is completely legal and has been properly disclosed to the board as required by law. The board knew? Lauren asked. 3 board members knew, James Morrison confirmed. Myself, Margaret, and Richard Zhang. We've been legally required to know because Emily's debt position crossed the threshold for required disclosure 18 months ago. My father turned to Richard Zhang, who looked uncomfortable but nodded confirmation. Why didn't you tell me? My father demanded. Because Emily asked us not to, James said. And legally we didn't have to. The disclosure requirements are to the board, not to all shareholders. I'm the CEO, my father shouted. And Emily is the majority owner, James replied. Which means technically you work for her. The room erupted again. Shareholders shouting questions. David arguing with James. My mother sitting frozen in her chair. I waited for the chaos to settle. I didn't reveal this position because I had no reason to, I finally said. The company was well managed. Profitable. Growing. I was happy to remain a silent partner. Then why reveal it now? Lauren asked. Because Dad is planning to sell to a private equity firm that will destroy everything he built, I said. And I'm not going to let that happen. My father walked slowly down from the stage, stopping a few feet from me. Up close I could see how shocked he was. How confused. How? He asked quietly. Where did you get $460 million? Grandfather left me $5 million when I was 21, I said. He told me to put it in a savings account. To be responsible with it. To not waste it on foolish investments. So you used it to buy debt in my company? I used it to build an investment portfolio, I said. I invested in private equity, real estate, venture capital. I was very, very good at it. Over 12 years, I turned $5 million into $680 million. My mother made a small sound. And you used that money to buy control of Bennett Industries? My father asked. I used that money to protect Bennett Industries, I corrected. Every time the company needed financing, I provided it. Favorable terms. Low interest rates. Flexible covenants. I helped fund the expansion into aerospace. I backed the facility upgrades. I supported the R&D investments. You've been subsidizing us? David asked. I've been investing in you, I said. Because this company is worth protecting. Because it employs 8,400 people. Because it's a real business that makes real things that matter. And now you're going to stop the sale, my father said flatly. Yes. Even though I want to sell. Even though I've earned the right to retire and cash out. You can retire, I said. David can be CEO. Or we can hire someone. But we're not selling to private equity. My father stared at me for a long moment. Then he turned to James Morrison. Is this legal? Can she actually do this? It's completely legal, James confirmed. Emily holds the majority position. She has the right to block any sale. In fact, given her debt position, she has veto power over virtually any major corporate decision. So I've been working for my daughter for the past 8 years without knowing it, my father said. You've been working with your daughter, I corrected. I never interfered with your management. I never questioned your decisions. I supported every initiative you proposed. While secretly buying up my company. While protecting your company, I said. Dad, you built something incredible. Something that matters. And I wasn't going to let it be destroyed just so you could have a bigger retirement account. This is insane, David said. You're 29 years old. You've never run a manufacturing facility. You've never managed a supply chain. What makes you think you can control this company? I'm not going to run it, I said. You are. Or Lauren. Or whoever is the best person for the job. I'm a passive investor, David. I just want to make sure the company survives. Thomas Westbrook from Goldman Sachs spoke up. If I may, I've reviewed Emily's investment track record. Her returns are exceptional. If she'd been managing Bennett Industries' investment portfolio, the company would be worth substantially more than it is now. Nobody asked you, my mother snapped. Actually, I did, James Morrison said. I asked Thomas to review Emily's credentials when she first disclosed her position to the board. I wanted to make sure she wasn't a corporate raider or some kind of threat. What I found was that she's one of the most successful private investors in the state. Her portfolio outperforms most hedge funds. And you never told us, my father said. Because she asked me not to, James replied. And frankly, Robert, would you have listened? You just mocked her savings account in front of 200 people. You told this room that she doesn't understand complex business. Would you have taken her seriously if we'd told you? My father didn't answer. I have a proposal, I said into the silence. Dad, you can retire. Take your equity stake, 31% of $1 billion company, and enjoy your retirement. That's over $300 million. You've earned it. But no sale to private equity, he said. No sale to private equity, I confirmed. David becomes CEO. Lauren stays as CMO. We hire a new CFO since Richard is ready to retire. The company continues operating as it always has, but with better capital structure and no vultures circling. And you, my father asked. What do you get? I get to know that grandfather's legacy is protected, I said. That the company he started and you built continues to exist. That 8,400 people keep their jobs. That manufacturing stays in America instead of being gutted and shipped overseas. Catherine Rodriguez from the accounting firm spoke up. I've reviewed Emily's proposal. It's financially sound. The company would actually be in a stronger position with her capital backing than it would be under private equity ownership. Because she's not extracting value, Margaret Chin added. She's providing capital at below market rates. She's essentially subsidizing the company's growth. My father looked around the room, at the shareholders watching this unfold, at the board members who'd known this secret, at his children processing this revelation. You really turned $5 million into $680 million? He asked me. Yes. In 12 years. Yes. How? By paying attention, I said. By learning. By taking your advice, actually. You always said to invest in things you understand. I understood manufacturing. I understood industrial supply chains. So I invested in companies like Bennett Industries. And I was careful. Conservative. Strategic. You could have told us, my mother said, her voice breaking. You let us think. We thought you were unemployed. I offered. Living off that little savings account? I know what you thought, Mom. Everyone made it very clear. Why didn't you correct us? Lauren asked. Would you have believed me? I asked. Or would you have accused me of lying? Of exaggerating? Of trying to compete with David and his real job? Lauren looked away. I attended these meetings for 8 years, I continued. I took notes. I asked questions. And every single time I was treated like a child playing dress-up. Dad made jokes about my savings account. David rolled his eyes at my questions. You all made it clear that I wasn't part of the real family business. But you were, my father said quietly. You were the biggest part. We just didn't know it. No, I said. You didn't look. The room stayed quiet for a long moment. Finally, James Morrison spoke. We need to take a formal vote. Emily has proposed blocking any sale to private equity and transitioning to new leadership under David Bennett as CEO. All those in favor? Every board member raised their hand. James, Margaret, Richard, and 3 others I recognized as longtime advisors. The motion passes, James declared. Bennett Industries will not be sold. Robert Bennett will transition to Chairman Emeritus. David Bennett will become CEO effective immediately. My father stood there looking older suddenly. Smaller. I need some air, he said and walked out of the ballroom. My mother followed him. David and Lauren exchanged glances but stayed. The shareholders began filing out, talking among themselves, processing what they'd just witnessed. James Morrison approached me. That went better than I expected. Did it? Nobody threw anything. I count that as a win. I almost smiled. David walked over, his expression unreadable. So you're my boss now. I'm your investor, I corrected. You're the CEO. Run the company. I'll stay out of your way. Why should I believe that? Because I've been staying out of your way for 8 years, I said. I could have interfered at any time. I never did. He studied me for a long moment. I don't know whether to be impressed or pissed off. You can be both. Are you going to want board meetings? Reports? Updates? Quarterly financial reviews, I said. Same as any investor. That's it. Lauren joined us. I have to ask. Why Bennett Industries? You could have invested in anything. Why Dad's company? Because it's not just Dad's company, I said. It's grandfather's legacy. It's 8,400 people's livelihoods. It's the reason why 5 communities in 3 states have functioning economies. And it's worth protecting. Even from Dad? She asked. Especially from Dad, I said. He built something incredible, but he was about to destroy it for a payout. I couldn't let that happen. David shook his head slowly. You're either the smartest person I know or completely insane. Possibly both, I admitted. My phone buzzed. A text from my father. Can we talk? Privately? I texted back. Tomorrow. You need time to process this. I packed up my laptop and headed for the exit. Thomas Westbrook caught up with me in the hallway. That was the most dramatic shareholders meeting I've ever attended, he said. And I've been to a lot of shareholders meetings. Sorry for the theatrics. Don't be. You just saved a company and made yourself a legend. By the way, if you ever want to discuss other investment opportunities, give me a call. Goldman would love to work with you. I'll keep that in mind. I walked out into the afternoon sunlight. My phone was exploding with texts and calls, but I ignored them all. Instead, I drove to the cemetery where my grandfather was buried. I sat on the grass next to his headstone. Hey, Grandpa, I said quietly. Remember when you gave me that $5 million and everyone said I should just put it in a savings account? That I shouldn't take risks because I was too young to understand investing. The wind rustled through the trees. I took the risk anyway, I continued. And today I used what I built to protect everything you started. The company. The jobs. The legacy. I sat there for a while watching the clouds move across the sky. They thought I was focusing on my little savings account, I said. Turns out I was building an empire. I drove home to my apartment. Not the penthouse my parents assumed I couldn't afford, but a modest 2-bedroom I actually owned outright under my investment company's name. I poured a glass of wine and opened my laptop. My portfolio dashboard showed $680 million in assets across 47 investments. Bennett Industries was the largest, but there were dozens of others. Manufacturing companies, industrial suppliers, technology firms. My phone rang. My father. I answered. I've been thinking, he said without preamble. About what you said. About me not looking. Dad. You're right. I didn't look. I saw what I expected to see. A daughter who wasn't interested in real business. Who didn't have the drive or the ambition or the understanding. It's okay. It's not okay, he interrupted. I built a company. You built an empire. And I was too blind to notice. I didn't know what to say. I'm proud of you, he said quietly. I should have said that years ago. I'm saying it now. I'm proud of what you've accomplished. Thank you, I managed. Tomorrow can we talk about the future? Really talk? Not father to daughter but investor to CEO. I'd like that. Good. And Emily? Yes. That savings account comment was cruel. I'm sorry. I know. He hung up. I sat there holding my phone watching the sun set over the city. They'd told me to focus on my little savings account. They'd said real business was too complex. They'd mocked my notes and dismissed my questions. And while they weren't looking, I'd become the thing they never saw coming. Their owner. Their investor. Their foundation. Tomorrow we'd start building something new. But tonight I'd earned the right to smile. Because sometimes, the quietest person in the room is the most powerful. And sometimes, a savings account grows into something nobody expected. Mine just happened to grow into $680 million and control of a billion-dollar empire. Not bad for someone who didn't understand complex business. Not bad at all.